Now, here's another big point. MikroTik and their certifications are also internationally recognized. Now, this is a little bit of a niche thing because this depends on finding companies that actually looks at MikroTik certifications, but I think it's also a good basis to show you, or show maybe other companies, that you know how networking works, or you know how specific concepts works because you've been certified in that. Now, MikroTiks offer stuff like, let's say, the MTCNA, which is the baseline standard certification, which broadly goes into all aspects of MikroTik. It's very similar to a CCNA or JNCIA. And then from there, you've got your different tracks that you can go into. Want to do wireless? Well, you can do the wireless engineer. Want to do switching? There's a switch engineer. Want to do IPv6? There's stuff for IPv6. Want to specifically look at routing? You can go for the MTCRE. And then after your MTCRE, you can even go for the MTCINE, which in essence is there for people that want to go in depth and learn more about BGP and MPLS and stuff like that. And this will more or less be for those top end engineers that want to peer with internet exchanges or actually run the backbone of a network. And I'd say it's definitely similar to something like a CCIE, even though it's not the CCIE, but it's internetworking engineer. So you're definitely going to be, let's say, the top dog of the network when you get that. But the options are there. There's different certification tracks, and I highly recommend learning more about the training. You typically attend just a small boot camp for the training, so you'll find an organization that's holding the training, and then you just go to the training session. It's usually a couple of days. At the end of the session, you write an exam, you pass your exam, get certified, valid for I think 3 years. And then you'll have to go rewrite your exam afterwards. So let's continue. We're actually done with, I'd say, the presentation side. I more or less want to talk about some of the getting started bits, because let's say you've bought your new MikroTik, it's in a box, you just brought it home, you want to start it up and start playing around. How are you going to go about it? So depends on how you want to connect everything, but by default, all router boards come with a default configuration, which is basically just a quick config where they've already set up some basic firewall rules. They've bridged all of the LAN ports together. They've set up stuff like DHCP server for the LAN, and they've set up a DHCP client on the WAN interface, which is typically Ether 1 on a router or router board. So it's just a quick and easy plug and play type of solution. You can even plug this into your current router or home solution, and it should in theory just start working as long as your home router issues out DHCP. Now, as I already mentioned, Ether 1 is your WAN connection, and I want to stress that it is important because of that default configuration, Ether 1 will also automatically block all incoming admin traffic, so you will have to connect your own computer or machine on one of the other ports, so 2, 3, 4, 5, if you have more ports, any of the other LAN ports, so that you can actually manage the device and log into it. And for that initial configuration, it is highly recommended that you do download Winbox to get into the router board so that you can just do the quick setup from there. Afterwards, you can choose your preferred method of configuration, but I typically use Winbox because it is an awesome GUI and we'll just be using it all the time, really. Now, I just want to give you the basic setup example because this is my setup that I will be using. So I will have my internet. My internet will be coming into my current router. So this is just a very small little Zyxel, and this Zyxel will then in essence be issuing out DHCP to my MikroTik on Ether 1. So I will connect onto Ether 1, and I will have my, even though I say laptop here, it is an actuality my computer. So I'll connect my computer that looks like Ether 3, but currently it's in Ether 2. So this is going to be the basic setup, but I'm not just going to show you the DHCP side. I'll give you a few different setup examples or situations as well, like how to configure a static IP or how to set up something like a triple PoE connection. But all of the other setup bits roughly remains the same. I will also show you the default configuration first, but afterwards we will then just remove that default configuration and then we'll set everything up from scratch, because I do feel like if you really want to learn MikroTik, the best way to do that is to actually configure the device yourself. If you're just relying on the startup script all of the time, it's going to be difficult when you actually need to get into a situation where you need to set things up. So I highly recommend, it's good practice. If you ever need to set anything up, set it up yourself, type in the stuff yourself. You'll thank yourself for it later. Anyways, this is where we're going to wrap off the presentation. Let's actually get into the lab side of things. So for this, we will just start off by actually downloading Winbox. Alright, so I've started and I'm on the MikroTik website. So first thing I'm going to do is go to the software. And then from the software, we can just click on the Winbox and then you can select your version. Typically it should be 64-bit for most people, but if you have a 32-bit Winbox, then that's it. Let me just also save link as. I'll quickly just save this on my desktop so that it's easily accessible so you can see what it looks like as well. But typically you'll see it's this little bluish icon that looks like a little satellite dish in the middle. I've also got it on my toolbar here. But if you double click on Winbox, it will open up the application. And this is what it looks like. So let me just maximize that. Now from here we can see managed, and it tells you what to connect to. Login, so what is the username? By default, all MikroTiks use admin as the username and the password is blank. However, with RouterOS version 7, which is what all of these new videos are based off of, once you've logged in the first time, you need to set the password to something else. Now, how are we going to connect to the MikroTik if we don't have any details? Well, we can navigate to this neighbors tab. And then from neighbors, the MikroTik has actually picked up what the neighbor is. So I can just click on its MAC address here. And I can click on connect. And now it's going to tell me, hey, there is a default configuration running. It will give you a little bit of advice like changing the password, upgrading the software packages, enabling the firewall on untrust networks, or set your country name to observe wireless regulations. And then just a few additional information like what the IP address is for the LAN, how the Wi-Fi has been configured. Now, if you want to remove this script, you can just click on remove configuration. It will then basically just do a reboot of the MikroTik and it will boot up without any configuration, and then you can set everything up yourself, which is what we'll do just now. But let's just hit OK and actually see what the MikroTik has done. So here you can see it is asking us for a new password. Let me see if I can also just zoom in a bit here. There we go. And let me just maximize the screen. So old password, there was nothing. New password, I will just set this to TMB123. I'll click on change now. And now we have a MikroTik ready to be configured. It's actually already working because this computer is already connected to the MikroTik and it already has internet access. Now I think it's worthwhile, before we configure anything or look at any configurations, let's just talk about Winbox, because as you saw, we logged in and it's given us this nice front pane that we can go through different configuration objects. Now MikroTik even has stuff like a quick set, which is just a quick setup of certain settings. I typically avoid using stuff like quick set or even the default configuration personally. I think again it is best to configure everything yourself because it gives you just that better understanding of how everything's been put together. But with your Winbox, you've got these different options here to either do something with the session, you can see stuff with the settings, or you can add some stuff to the dashboard. And with the settings, there's also some quick keys, like I zoomed in and out. So control minus is zoom out, control plus is zoom in. But it's nice with the dashboard that you can add extra, let's say, widgets to see exactly what's happening with the system. Because maybe you want to look at the time, so I can add the time. I can add the CPU to see what the current CPU load looks like. I can add the memory to see what the memory load looks like. And even the uptime. So now you can see how long this MikroTik has actually been powered on, which is quite nice. Alright, so if we look at the Winbox in the left hand side, we have this nice window, which is basically different options that you can configure on the router, or things that you maybe want to look at. So we could look at the interfaces of the MikroTik, and if I just click on that, we can then see a representation of the physical interfaces, namely Ether 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We can even see the wireless network card or adapter on here. And we can see something known as a bridge interface. Now a bridge, I just want you to think of a bridge as a way to bundle ports together, put them in the same bridge, and when they're in the same bridge, they can actually operate on the same broadcast domain as well. Now this is very useful because maybe you don't have a switch, but you want all of your devices that's plugging into those LAN ports of your MikroTik to be in the same network. If you bridge them all together, they're in essence in the same network. It's kind of like creating a switch in your router, which is crazy. Now, if you want to do anything with an interface, you can just double click on it, and you'll actually first start off in this general tab. Here you can give the interface a name. Now I think it is highly advantageous to give your interfaces names. So maybe you could make Ether1 and then underscore, or maybe make brackets or something, just to give it a description of what it is. So this is like Ether1 is my WAN or internet or something, just so it's easier for you to get an understanding if you ever forget what a port was configured for or why it's there. So let me just apply this, and then you will see that change actually reflects in Winbox and works great. So this bridge, we can also rename this if I wanted to LAN. Oh, the interface list already. So let's just call this local maybe. There we go. So all my local ports, which is 2, 3, 4, and 5, are now local, and we know that Ether1 is now for the internet. Now, besides just changing those details, you can also look at stuff like the statistics.